Folks, it is Monday, but it's time for some Major League Baseball talk. This is SportsBookReview.com, and this is your Major League Baseball show for Monday, August 31st, 2020. Tomorrow is September. I'm Donnie Seymour. He's Jason Radowitz. Jason, Mets are playing right now as we watch. Will you be able to concentrate on the show is the question.
Yeah, I got it on the side, but yeah, you know what? The Mets have been they Mets us over the weekend. Tell you that much. So it was a great start on Friday, and then all of a sudden it just big collapse for the Mets. But yeah, I mean we're still fighting in the NL East. It's a weird, wild ride in the NL East. It's anyone's division right now.
No, action-packed show set up on the day. Monday afternoon card. We'll hit a couple of those games. And, of course, we probably should get through the entire card in 30 minutes or less if you guys haven't done so yet. A lot of you have. Look at that, 66,900 subscribers. We are just a few subscribers short of 60,000 total. So if you haven't done so yet and flip that red button that says subscribe over to gray, we really would appreciate you doing so now, and also turning on the notifications every time Jason and I go live in Major League Baseball, so specifically right here on the sportsbookreview.com website. We will be able to get after it and say hello, because I want to say hello to some guys in there. Jose, Ron, Sabino, Jack, Gabriel, Jose, Jovan, Gordon. Yes, that is Gordon Watson out there in the chat box. We always like to give a shout out to our man, Jack Holleran, Talisman, and Ryan. Let's get after it. I got to say, look, last week, Jason, sometimes we come on the show and like, you know what? I need a good bounce back week. I need it to happen. I need a bounce forward. 7-0 last week. As you said last week, not only swept the show, swept the week. And I got a flea bag I'm going to lay down with today. We're going to come up with some money. Let's not waste any more time here, Jason. Let's have a good day and get it started off. First game, we'll look at 9:53, 9:54, Seattle and Los Angeles. That's Gonzalez, the lefty, versus Jaime Barria. 63% of the tickets actually coming in here on the road team. The Seattle Mariners open up at 9.5. That now sits at 9. We also see an opening at Pinnacle Offshore at SBRodds.com, -146, staying in the same range, -145, -151, depending on where you're shopping at. I'm going to keep it simple in this game. The Angels are one of the most enigmatic teams I've ever seen. 16, 17 runs on Saturday, barely able to hit done yesterday. I think it rolls over today. Give me the crafty lefty on the mound, not for the full game, but just to go head-to-head with Barria. I'm going to take a dog on the first 5 innings here. I'm going to go Seattle Mariners money line first 5 innings plus 115. Are you looking at anything in this spot here?
Yeah, so look, the Mariners, I have them as underdogs as well at plus 133. I think Marco Gonzalez, he's pitched well versus the Angels this season. 13.1 innings pitched, just allowed 3 runs and 6 hits in those 13.1 innings. Has 13 strikeouts and 1 walk versus the Angels, so he's been really good versus the Angels. Righties are hitting just 240, lefties are hitting 220, so he's been good throughout the entire season. Let's not just say against the Angels, he's been okay. Like, he's been a solid pitcher for the Mariners with a 3.63 ERA, a 3.66 FIP, which is respectable for a starter that's gone 6 starts already this season. Jamie Barria here, 2.89 ERA, a 2.39 FIP, but this is a guy who hasn't started a game yet this season, so can't really expect him to go deep in this game at all. He was good in both relief outings, of course, 3 earned runs in 9.1 innings pitched, so not a terrible pitcher, but he's not going to be pitching too long in this game. So for sure, Gonzalez in the first 5, Mariners in the full game, both seem like solid plays in this one.
Yeah, decent weather out there too, Jason. Talk about 78, 79 degrees at first pitch, wind blowing out lightly around 9 to 10 miles an hour to center field. I think we'll see some runs in this game. But again, as I talked about the Angels, one of the toughest teams for me to handicap and take a look at, because the lineups that they provide usually underperform at a clip that we're like, oh, come on, man. Like, again, Saturday night explodes, Sunday night not do much damage. But I'm going to flip it over to the Mariners today, but also take a look at that Mariners lineup. So, look, sometimes you just have to have a leap of faith and say, I think this lineup is going to be able to do something today. And you don't need a lot of damage. I think that Gonzalez can be able to hold down the lineup for the Angels and get it done today. But an interesting matchup, afternoon baseball, which, hey, we can't complain. It comes on, gives us something to watch during the day. 9:55, 9:56, St. Louis and Cincinnati, Dakota Hudson and Anthony DeSclafani. 7 out of every 10 tickets here, Jason, coming in on the Reds. If we take a look at the line, opened up at 115 at Pinnacle Offshore. That's sort of scaled back a little bit. Depending on where you're shopping at, you can get one team as a favorite, one team as a dog. So roughly a pick 'em right down the number. 9 as the opener, 9.5 now sit across the board. This one was a little bit tougher for me, but there's a couple matchups I like in this game. Just to get it started, I like the Cardinals first 5 innings money line -105 in this one. I think they're the better team in this, and there's a couple hitting matchups I really like here, Jason.
Yeah, that's the funny thing. Right now, I'm on the Cardinals. It's an official play over 4 team
Yep.
total. So over 4. So all they got to do is score 4 runs as a push. They score 5 and you win.
There you go.
So this is at minus 135. Got it last night. I think it might have obviously increased just a bit, but it's worth the juice if you can get over 4. Do I think 4.5 will hit? Of course I do, but that's your discretion and your whatever you're looking for. But yeah, DeSclafani, he's allowed 11 runs in his last 6.1 innings pitched. So he started off the season really well. Now he's been shaky in his last 2 starts, allowed 9 runs to the Pirates. This game was at home. This was his only start at home this season, and he got rocked by the Pirates, the worst offensive team in baseball, and it's not even close. Lefties are hitting 325 on the season and 40 at bats versus DeSclafani. So, yeah, I would assume the Cardinals can definitely hit a couple runs off of DeSclafani. We can go back to his last start. He allowed just 2 runs in less than 5 innings, and then the Cardinals just couldn't score against the bullpen. I think that changes this game. I think what we always talk about is how, look, at the end of the day, if a pitcher is facing the hitting team a second time straight, it usually benefits the hitting team. I think the Cardinals, obviously coming off of a 7-run performance in yesterday's game, think they'll be able to score at least 4 runs in this game. Of course, we'd rather them hit 5, get that win, but I do think the Cardinals have a lot going for them in this game against the Reds.
No, I completely agree with it. And the reason why I like, just the first 5 innings, I want to go up against DeSclafani straight up because obviously, the elevated xFIP, some of the numbers, but also you're right. He does actually pretty well against right-handed batters, but lefties has really struggled at 45 batters, Jason, he's faced this year from the left-hand side, a 414 weighted on base average and an ISO of 275, hitting distance 213, which means the ball is carrying exit velocity into the 90s. So if we take a look at the Cardinals lineup, which is why we like it, Wong will be a lefty, Edman, Miller, Carpenter, Fowler, and Carlson. That's 6 out of the 9 hitters in the lineup coming from the left-hand side. That's the way I wanted to match it, but I can also see your viewpoint there, 4.5 as a team total. They should be hovering around it. They were good to me last week. I think they'll be equally as good today. They should be able to get that team total number and also cover in the first 5 innings. I think we're on the right path in that ball game. 9:57, 9:58, Tampa Bay and the New York Yankees. Glass now versus Cole. Great pitching matchup here on its face. 7 out of every 10 tickets here coming in on the New York Yankees. And if we take a look at the line, opened up at minus 140, but now we're sitting in that same range across the board. The highest number I'm seeing here at Chris, minus 147, and an over-under of 7.5. Now, the first thing that drew my attention here when I took at this game, the Yankees team total in the game is 3.5. And it's not like 3.5 minus 160, some alt line. It's 3.5 minus 120, which is incredible when you take a look at that specifically, that the game is also being played in New York, not down in Tampa. So a hitter's ballpark. That's the first thing that struck in this game. If I'm taking a look at this, however, that number is there for a reason. Glasnow's pitching very well. Cole's pitching very well. You're going to be able to stack up those lefties for the Rays. I'm going to go with a reverse run line first 5 innings on the Tampa Bay Rays, getting that half a run and paying minus 130 in juice. I think it could be low scoring over the first 5 innings. I think those Rays can scratch out a run. If they get a run or more, that run line is going to look pretty good over the first 5 innings. That's where I'm going to lean in this one, Jason. Any thoughts here on the Rays and the Yankees?
Yeah, look, Cole has not been great in his last 2 starts. Look, the Yankees lost their last 2 games with him on the mound. He's now allowed 11 hits and 7 runs in his 2 starts. Of course, the strikeouts are really high. So, if you're going to look for like a strikeout prop or something, yeah, I would think that Cole would be able to get the strikeout numbers versus the Rays. I don't know what the number is, but I do know he has 20 strikeouts in 11.1 innings against the Rays this season in 2 starts. So Cole's been very good against the Rays, but of course, he's also allowed 10 home runs on the season, and the Rays have hit 3 of them. So Cole, again, he's not the best pitcher in New York. Well, that's DeGrom, and he's pitching right now. So just to let you guys know. But, yeah, Glasnow, he's helped the Rays win in his last 3 starts. He hasn't been perfect. He's allowed 9 runs in his last 3 starts in 16.2 innings pitched, but he's been good enough. His strikeout numbers are high. Of course, his walks are starting to creep up a little bit as well. So those are getting extremely high as well. I watched the Yankees throughout the entire weekend, right? And their hitting has been pretty brutal, and we're not talking about how, DeGrom didn't pitch in any of these starts, right? So the Mets didn't have DeGrom pitching, and the Yankees really struggled offensively. Of course, when there's doubleheaders, it's a little bit harder, to hit and to stay, consistent, with the bats. But the reality is, both these pitchers, Cole and Glasnow, have really, got their strikeout numbers up and should be able to get the job done. To pick a winner, it's hard. I would hope that Cole can get bounced back. He's looked really good versus the Rays in the 2 starts with the strikeout numbers. So probably the Yankees, but I don't know if I'd pay the juice for the Yankees to win this game with Glasnow winning his last 3 and Cole losing his last 2.
Doug Olmstead in the chat box says, Chris and Jason, love your show. Hey, you can call me Chris. You can call me whatever you want to. As long as you watch the show, I'm down with it. If we like sometimes in the old school, as we take a look at Garrett Cole with Tyler Glasnow here, just the ERAs as they match up, Jason, 3.51 for Cole, 5.14 for Glasnow. You'd say, oh my God, blowout. Yankees are going to easily cruise. But the numbers that actually make sense, like when you dip it all the way over, take a look at the XFIP. I mean, a 2.75 XFIP from Tyler Glasnow. And if you match up the Sierra numbers, 3.06 for Cole and 3.17 for Glasnow, it really tells a different story. It's amazing some of these numbers that we always used to look at. Oh my God, the ERA is at 5. He's a terrible pitcher. Those numbers say he's having damn near like a Cy Young type year. So it should be interesting to see how it plays out. But I'm just going to lean on a close, hard-fought game over 5 innings. If it comes up tied after 5, I got it. If somehow the Tampa Bay Rays are sitting there ahead, that's also a winner. Also, 961, 962, 7:30 p.m. tonight Eastern time. Atlanta and Boston, Fried versus Brewer. 6 out of every 10 tickets here on Atlanta. Last night bouncing back for the Phillies looked like an easy one in their back pocket, 10-0, which turned into a close game late as the bats absolutely came to life. No surprise in that small ballpark down in South Philadelphia. It looks like we open up at 177 offshore, and now we're seeing the numbers coming in on Atlanta as well. -186, -191, -195. Also taking a look at a 9.5 across the board up at Fenway. Is this one of these spots? Because sometimes we talked about this early in the season, setting up what we like and what we don't like. One of those teams that plays later on Sunday night in Philadelphia has to travel up to Boston. Meanwhile, Boston at home yesterday, picking up a victory over the Nationals, rested and ready for this one. But I got to tell you, that Boston lineup matches up really well in this. That Atlanta lineup matches really well in this Boston ballpark tonight. I'm going to lean with Atlanta in this one. Not a big love, but I'm going to go Braves first 5 innings team total over 2.5. It's juicy at 5 dimes at -140. I think they get 3 runs over 5 innings here up there in Boston. What are you thinking about this game?
Yeah, and you're on top of it. Cole and Brewer, not been a great pitcher, a 4.57 ERA and a 6 FIP. He allowed 5 hits and 4 runs in 3.2 innings pitched against the Blue Jays his last time out. Writers are hitting .333. He's done a solid job versus lefties this season, but the walks are getting really high for Brewer. And then you go on the other hand, you have Max Fried. He's 5-0, a 1.35 ERA, a 2.29 FIP. Fried, once Soroka went down, had to be the guy, and he has been the guy for the Braves. Of course, the Braves are looking at another starting pitcher to add, at this deadline, and of course, I think that they'll get a solid pitcher, before the deadline's over. But the Braves have won every game that Fried has pitched. He's looked really good. Has allowed no more than 2 runs in any start this season. So if you're on that first 5 for the Braves, you're hoping the Braves just score runs, and then you should be good. Looking at the stats, Fried's been really good. Of course, the Red Sox lineup isn't terrible. I mean, we saw them produce, a couple of times, over the weekend and whatnot. But at the end of the day, Fried has the 190 OBA. He's allowed no home runs on the entire season. Fried's been incredible. So I'd be on the Braves -1.5 if I had to choose, under 9.5. Braves coming out of a late night game. I don't know how what they're going to do with runs. Maybe they'll score a couple early and then settle down, which I hope for your sake. But the reality is, I don't know how the Braves are going to perform coming off a late night game.
Yeah, I think the bats will come to play. But again, we have to take a look to see if anybody's getting the night off after a night game now heading up to Boston, this spot. And this, usually you'd be gearing up for the Boston Red Sox. If you're anybody from the NL East, well, man, we're going to be in for a tough one this weekend. Starting pitching, hitting, bullpen, everything's really good. But everything seems to break down for the Boston Red Sox completely in sell mode at this point as well. We didn't bring up a good point here as well, Jason. PSA that I like to talk about sometimes is, some of these guys might get moved if you put your plays in early. We're talking about a trade deadline today. It's like, hey, I got a pretty good lineup out here. One of these teams' bullpens today might get decimated by moving 2 or 3 pieces. So keep an eye on that as the afternoon goes on. And you're looking at a team in Boston. You say, boy, this might be a real sneaky spot to take a dog here. They might be down 2 guys in their lineup and also in their bullpen as well. So just something for a little bit of food for thought to keep an eye on. And by the way, Jason, can the Padres buy everybody on the market and try to make a run at the Dodgers? The thing that we mostly interesting link. 965, 966, 8 o'clock tonight, Cleveland and Kansas City. Bieber and Keller on the mound. 7 out of every 10 tickets here on the road squad. Those Cleveland Indians open up at -221 offshore. That now sits close to -250, and taking a look at a total of 7.5. And look, when you're taking a look again at some of these numbers that you say, boy, this game should be a lot closer than what it is, because you're taking a look at some numbers for Keller, 2.08 ERA. Oh my God, Cy Young, like this is going to be a great spot for over 200. I'm getting an ERA at 2. But then you take a look at the opposite numbers. 4.63 is an xFIP and a disaster of over 5 on the Sierra number. I'm going to take a leap of faith because some of these teams are supposed to hit these teams, meaning the Indians waking up. I got a plus money number. First 5 innings, team total over 2.5. I'm getting that at plus 135 at 5 dimes. I'm going to take the Indians to get 3 runs over the first 5. And yes, he has a great ERA, but he did get blown up in his last start, specifically looking at the Sierra. Maybe he's going to get touched up for 3 more runs over the first 5, Jason. I'm going that way. Team total, first 5 innings on Cleveland. What are you looking at here?
Well, I hope Cleveland just scores 3 runs and the Royals don't score any, because I got under 4.5 in the first 5. Of course, Bieber coming out there, you expect him to put up zeros. He's already done that versus the Royals this season. 6 innings, just 4 hits, 1 walk, had 14 strikeouts in just 6 innings versus the Royals earlier in the season. I think that was his first start of the season, and that's when we were all on Bieber watch to win potentially the Cy Young this year, and he's definitely the guy that I would probably say would win the AL Cy Young this season. So he looked really good. The Indians are 7-0 when Bieber is on the mound this season. He struck out 8 or more batters in every game this season. He's also hit double digits in his last 3 games this season. So Bieber's been on another planet right now. But then you talked about Brad Keller. Yeah, he got blown up by the Cardinals. I think he allowed 5 runs in that start. Before that, he allowed no runs in 3 starts, went 3-1. He's a big ground ball pitcher. In those 3 games, he got a ton of ground balls. And then in that game versus the Cardinals, a lot of fly balls and not too many ground balls. Now, again, we talk about these Indians. They're not the greatest hitting team. They definitely do hit ground balls. And if Keller can get ground balls out of the Indians, then, I think that if we can get under, he could, obviously get some quick outs and some, quick double plays if a guy's on base and get the job done. If he just allows 2-3 runs at most to the Indians, that's fine with me. Let him do 3. That's fine. And we'll take this under 4.5 in the first 5 at minus 150. Of course, when you go into like the DraftKings or the FanDuels, you're going to see there's just one play. It's going to usually be under 3.5 in the first 5 at around minus 120. Again, I have under 4.5 at minus 150. It's kind of a bit of an alternative line where not all books have it. So would I recommend 3.5? Probably not. I'd rather you get 4.5. But again, you can take the stats, take my analysis and say, okay, I still believe they're going to hit 3.5 if you want to. Again, I'm not advocating that. I'm advocating under 4.5 at minus 150. I know it's a lot of juice, but look, that's what I got to do to get the money.
Dizzy Rothstein in the chat box says GLM, gambling lives matter. That's something I can really get behind here in the chat box with you guys. Also, if we take a look at some of the other comments in the chat, Randy, does Jason like Bieber over 8.5 Ks at minus 140? We're looking for a big strikeout game today, Jason. What are we looking at there?
Yeah, look, he had 14 in his last game versus the Royals. 14. Just cut that in half, and he's almost near his goal through 6 innings. So, yeah, I'd expect him to go 5, 6, maybe even more innings. Obviously, when you're a guy that's throwing a lot of strikeouts, it usually does mean more pitches, and the pitch count starts to kind of increase. So that's the only thing that I'd worry about. But at the end of the day, in his last 3 starts, he's gotten 10, 11 strikeouts per start. So yeah, I expect him to get 8, 9, 10. Yeah, why not?
There you go. Sabino says, hey, guys, thanks for the show and feedback. Minnesota Twins -1 at plus 100 versus the White Sox. What do you guys think? Well, hold that thought. We're going to get to that game in just a little bit. As I said, we're going to cover just about every game on the card today. Let's keep it right in order here. 7:05 p.m. in the city of brotherly love. 9:59, 9:60 is the rotation. Fetty versus Howard. 5 out of every actually close to 6 out of every 10 tickets here coming in on the Philadelphia Phillies after losing last night. How about this line move here, Jason? Offshore at SBRodds.com. Pinnacle opens up at -114. We're now seeing about a -140 across the board, and an over-under that opened up at 10, now sitting at 10.5. And I got to say, I can't disagree with that. You saw the game last night. When you get in this ballpark and you have lineups that have the ability to do damage. Now, this isn't the old Nationals lineup that we're used to seeing, the Bryce Harpers, the Anthony Rendones, but they're still able to do some damage, put up 5 runs yesterday. Should have more than 5 runs yesterday, but that's another story for neither here nor there. But if we look overall, The Philadelphia Phillies are hot. 2 weak pitchers in that small ballpark. The Phillies were hoping on big things from Spencer Howard, but I'm not seeing it right now. And the main problem here, Jason, is we're not seeing a pitcher that has the ability to go 6 or 7 innings and carry you through the bullpen. He's going 3 innings, 4 innings. That's a lot to leave out there for a bullpen that last night basically got used the entire game because Jake Arrieta was so bad early off. If I look at the 10, it would have been nice. 10.5 still seems doable. I think both these teams hit tonight. I'll take the over 10.5.
Yeah, and I saw over 10, and that's my lean, over 10. If I had to take an underdog here, the Nationals at plus money seems like a great play here. You just talked about how Spencer Howard, the guy struggled going 5 innings in any start. The Phillies bullpen, of course, was used a ton. Who knows what could happen at the trade deadline if the Phillies think that they're buyers or sellers, what they do with their bullpen. There's a couple good arms in that Phillies bullpen. But I would think the Phillies are going to go for it instead of get rid of it because they've bought so much in the last couple of years. So, but just something to look out for in this game. It's a tough game for me. I think over 10 is the best way. But if you're looking for an underdog play, the Nationals seem like a solid underdog play. Although Eric Fetty is nothing special. Let's be real.
No, certainly. And again, when you took it it's unless you have power pitchers on the mound, the ball is going to jump and fly out of there. And I think that's what's going to take place again tonight. So even with that line movement, I still recommend taking a over in that ball game. I know there's a game about to start here in about 20 minutes or so. So we'll hit it real quick. 9:51, 9:52, Baltimore and Toronto. Aiken, the lefty, is going to be on the mound for the Orioles, and Anderson for Toronto. Or it looks like close to 6 out of every 10 tickets coming in on Toronto. How about Anderson being a heavy favorite of 175 to open up, 163 across the board? You already saw Baltimore sell a key piece in the bullpen, which when you're playing in a smaller ballpark like they do now with Toronto in Buffalo, that could be a difference. Opened up at 10.5. That now sits 10.5 across the board. I don't have a lot of numbers here in Major League Baseball and Aiken, but the one thing that looks like he's being troubled by is right-handed bats. Only 9 batters he's faced, but a weighted on base average of 500 with an ISO of 571. You'll be able to get a pretty good stack of Toronto hitters. But it comes down to the fact is, I don't know if Anderson is that reliable to have that big of a price, because when you take a look versus right-handed pitching, that's one thing that this Orioles club has done really well with. I have a lean towards the over in this one, but not enough on Aiken to make a bet or maybe a side here. But I do lean over here. Yeah,
look, Aiken, he's going to be making his first career start. He's been out of the bullpen in his first 2 games of his career. Just 3.1 innings under his belt. So, again, you're not expecting – you're going to get maybe 2-3 innings out of him. And I think that's really why Anderson is a heavy favorite in this game, because Anderson, he had his longest outing of the season against the Red Sox in his last start, which was just 5 innings, of course. But in that game, he did allow 4 runs, 3 were earned off of 7 hits. So Anderson, not the greatest pitcher either, has an OBA of 320 on the season, or at home this season. He has a 320 OBA at home, a 288 against lefties, and the lefties are hitting 333. OBA of I'm getting so confused. OBA of 288 on the season. Lefties are hitting 333 against him, and then he has a 320 OBA at home this season. So all these numbers for Anderson basically add up to the Orioles maybe hitting him here and there as well. So this is a tough one. I think obviously the Blue Jays should be favorites. I'm not sure I agree with the 180 juice, but at the end of the day, I mean, the Orioles, this is a team that, like you said, they lost a bullpen arm. They're going to have to go with their bullpen throughout the entire game.
Yeah.
So you look at the Blue Jays and you expect them to get some more runs than the Orioles in this game.
No, I agree with you there, because when you're talking about a bad team already and you're talking about a pitcher that's not going to go deep and you're going to rely on a bullpen that's not good and they just took one of their better pieces away, you figure it'd be 9 full innings that Toronto's going to be able to do some damage in that small ballpark. So, but I also think Baltimore can counter with some runs. So I'll go with the over 10.5 in that ball game. Let's keep going. We would go over the Pittsburgh and Milwaukee game, but there's no lineup. I guess they're still deciding on what pitcher is going to. It had Lauer listed as a original starter there for Milwaukee. Maybe that's not the case. So we'll keep moving here. 967, 968, the Chicago White Sox and the Minnesota Twins. Good matchup here. Good matchup. 6 out of every 10 tickets here coming in on the Chicago White Sox. Giolito, fresh off a no-hitter. Now, look, most of the time in the public eye, oh my goodness, he's hot. He threw a no-hitter. But a lot of people, those contrarians, love to fade a pitcher off a no-hitter. Elevated pitch count, a lot of high, stressful innings for the guy, celebrating probably a couple days after it. Mom, dad, and friends, oh my God, Lucas, you are the best pitcher I've ever seen in my life. Maybe that head gets a little bit swelled up, but he's going to go against Rich Hill tonight. Opens up at a -118, but Giolito taking money here. -130s across across the board. 8.5s now turn into 9s, but there still are a few 8.5s with some juice that are left on the board. It's just a matter of what you want to look at in this game, because you could say Giolito's hot. You can also look at one of my favorite numbers this year. Just put any left-hander out on the mound versus those White Sox, and it's an automatic win for the Sox. It was surprised he didn't score a lot over the first 5, 6, 7 innings yesterday, but obviously a 3-run blast late in that game, a 5-2 victory over Kansas City. We'll see what happens today, but why harm a good thing? First 5 innings, maybe money line look at the Chicago White Sox. As long as they're going against a lefty, I'm interested in the Chicago White Sox here, Jason.
Yeah, and maybe looking at the team total for the White Sox is the way to go, because Giolito did not fare well against the Twins in his first start this season versus them. I think he allowed like 6 runs in that game, or 7 runs on 6 hits in 6.2 innings pitched against the Twins. So, maybe if this is an over game, maybe Giolito, of course, doesn't have his best stuff, like you said. And Rich Hill, this is a guy that I'm not sold on, of course. This is a guy that probably won't go deeper than 5 innings. We know the White Sox, they hit lefties well. Of course, they struggled, yesterday in that game. But, you look at those metrics and you don't worry about that. You just say they hit lefties, they're going to do it, and we're going to just go with it. So maybe over 9 is the play in this game. Of course, I agree that Giolito won't have no hitter in this game, although he's looked good in his last 2 starts. So not just his no hitter, but the start before that, he looked pretty good. He's allowed no runs in his last 16 innings pitched, with 26 strikeouts and just 2 walks. So he's really finding his groove. But against the Twins, he didn't. So I think over 9 is probably the play in this game.
Last game, we'll take a look at 969, 970, San Diego and Colorado. It's going to be Richards and Marquez on the mound. How about this one? 9 out of every 10 tickets here coming in on the Colorado Rockies. This line opened up at a -111 in the favor of San Diego. Now it's flipped over to a -113 offshore at Chris in the favor of the Colorado Rockies. The over-under opened up at 13, now down to 12. And again, you're looking at a game that's later at night, some wind blowing in, only 70 degrees temperatures, not those 90s. But I got to tell you, when you look at these lineups sometimes, San Diego is loaded for bear and just seems like they score at will. When their bats are hot, the ball's leaving the yard. But I'm going to flip it over in this one, and I'm going to take a look at the team total for the Colorado Rockies just going against Richards. If you look at his splits, a much better pitcher in July, or the end of July than he was in August, even though it was limited innings, and also really struggling with left-handed batters. 6 of the 9 batters anticipated for the Colorado Rockies tonight to be from the left-hand side. Team total over 5.5 for me in this game, Jason. Any looks here out in Colorado, hot San Diego team, they are loading up for the playoff run, and you're actually getting them at a plus money price tonight.
Yeah, so this is interesting. Like, both these pitchers are coming off of duds, right? Absolute duds. Marquez, he struggled in his last 2 starts. He has a 6.87 ERA at home this season with an OBA of 325 at home, 5 walks and 18.1 innings pitched. He's now allowed 13 runs in his last 10 innings pitched, and those walks are slowly increasing. But Richards, he blew up against the Mariners in his last start, just 0.2 innings, couldn't get through 1 inning versus the Mariners, another team that we talk about, not the greatest hitting team. Of course, they show up like randomly here and there, but they're not a great hitting team by any stretch of the imagination. But yeah, he allowed 6 earned runs in 0.2 innings pitched in his last start, 2 walks, no strikeouts. The question really comes down to which pitcher bounces back and has a solid performance. I'm not sure either of these guys do. And we're playing in Coors Field, and you said, okay, the wind's going to blow in, whatnot here. That's fine. I still think it goes over 12, and we just saw it go from 13 to 12. There's value on the over 12. I never would have thought I'd say value over 12. I just did. There's value on the over 12. These pitchers have been brutal in their last starts. I wouldn't rely on the Rockies bullpen if my life depended on me. The Padres, they're obviously trying to improve and trying to add some pieces. The thing will be, obviously they're going to be losing some bats for this game, I'm sure. But, I mean, the bats that matter are obviously staying for the Padres. So I wouldn't be too worried about that. Of course, they're gearing up for a big playoff push. So I expect them to hit a ton in this game. Also expect the Rockies to hit a ton in this game. Richards couldn't get through an inning against the Mariners. So, yeah, over 12. I think I probably side with the Padres. I've had a pick. I know it's around to pick them. I decided with the Padres here. The better team here, of course. So, but yeah, over 12 seems like the play.
Yeah, Padres lineup looks awesome, man. And they are swinging hot bats, so it is fun. And you're right. When you talk about that thin air, as long as it's not 42 degrees in the Colorado Rockies in the 70s, that should be nice weather. And again, ballpark, blowing in 8 miles an hour, it's rarely going to have any impact on the game unless it's like Wrigley Field where it's an unobstructed wind that's coming in at about 20 miles an hour. Also, some news here. Also, Robbie Ray has been traded to the Toronto Blue Jays. So again, keep in mind tonight, if you like one of these games tonight, maybe sit it out till after the deadline. Still going to have a couple hours. I know we like to jump lines to get the best one possible, but it does suck when 2 or 3 guys might get moved off your team or a bullpen piece or just intercepts or interrupts the flow there. It doesn't usually work out in your favor as opposed to because those guys will be moving. But anyway, it's time for Best Bets and Bankers. 30 minutes in. I told you guys, 30 minutes into the show, we're going to have every game covered here, which we have. Now it's time to win. 7 wins for me last week. And look, you cannot be afraid to lay down with some of these fleas and come up because you know where I'm going. And I want a winner before dinner, as I like to say. And that's going to be with the Seattle Mariners team total. I'm looking at it right now on my screen at 5 dimes. Team total over 3.5, minus 140. I don't want to pay anything 150 juice or higher. Even 140 is still expensive. I believe they get 4 runs today. Looking at a bullpen type game for the Angels. We're having a lot of left-handed batters. It's already confirmed here. 6 out of the 9 batters will be from the left-hand side to go up against Berea. There's no reason to believe that this team can't score 4 runs against the Angels. Hopefully the Angels can put up a front where they can get 3 or 4 runs maybe off of Gonzalez. So worst case scenario, we get 3-3, head to extra innings. We have the away team, maybe tackled a couple runs to turn it. 4 runs today will be had by the Mariners, my banker of the day. The Mariners team total over 3.5, minus 140 at 5 dimes. Jason, take it away. What are we looking at for some best bets and bankers?
Yeah, so let's want to talk about quickly the Blue Jays going after 2 starting pitchers now. They're really going for it. So keep that in mind when you're betting on these games. The Blue Jays, they expect to win now. And also Jeff McNeil just doubled in a run, so the Mets now lead 1-0. So I had to tell you guys that. But anyway, we got the Cardinals over 4 on the team total at minus 135. I think this has increased a little bit, but I got this late last night. Last night I got it late at night with the Cardinals over 4 team total versus Anthony DeSclafani and the Reds. That is one banker. And then my other banker is under 4.5. This is at minus 150. And I usually never take anything over minus 150, but for a Shane Bieber, I'll do it. For Shane Bieber, I'll do it under 4.5 in the first 5 at minus 150 against the Royal Indians versus Royals in that game. So that game, I don't recommend going 3.5, but again, it's your discretion and it's what you want to do. It's your own money, but I would rather the 4.5 and have that extra run.
Guys, if you missed any part of the show, there is a link below, sbrpicks.com/MLB. 48 thumbs up, 0 thumbs down, 280 people currently watching here in the chat box. Guess what when you wake up tomorrow, Jason? It's September 1st. So immediately, what do you think? Oh my gosh, football season is here. We got you covered on the channels. College football, NFL, and also how about this? September 12th in that range, the EPL comes back. Flash has you covered in the morning. Jason and I all day. Look, it's September. We're going to head down the backstretch in Major League Baseball. We'll be here Monday through Friday, 1:30 p.m., breaking it all down right through to the World Series. And Jay also has his NBA show at noon and a lot of stuff going on in the channels. It can't happen without you guys in the chat box. I'm going to just say it now, 67,000 subscribers already. We do thank you very much. A huge card coming up for the month of September in just about every sport. It's right here at sportsbookreview.com. Thank you for tuning into the Major League Baseball show. I'm Donnie Seymour. He's Jason